Hey everybody, welcome to the live. Probably only going to be about a 10-minute live, if even that. So what I've done is I've gone through with the Serpents add-on creation tool, which is super cool, by the way. If you guys ever want to get into learning that, there's a whole slew of tutorials on it. And so what I did is I just added some buttons here to the add modifier panel, and they may or may not stay there. So, you guys can just tell me what you think. I've got the comments up here. So if you wanted to, what you could do is you could take the bevel, you just add your bevel, very simple, and then you just click add the bevel, okay? And now you get the warning for the auto smooth, which is very common. It's always a pain to go do it. So I figure like everything's right here. So you just click auto smooth, and now you've got this really nice bevel. And so if you wanted to, come in here and cut something in, you could definitely do that. And I think we'll just use the carver tool here and just cut in. And that's pretty cool. Now you can get rid of this shading as well. The auto smooth sometimes will just correct it like that, which is super cool. I love how that works. And it's a shade and auto smooth, by the way. It's not just one function. And so that's important to note. Now, if you want a slightly bigger bevel, then you can hit bevel number 2. And you don't have to change anything here. Everything's already set up. So if you go into geometry, you'll see that sharp is on the miter outer. And I'm sure everybody knows if you go from sharp to arc on more squared up models with lots of deep corners, sharp corners and things, then the arc is going to prevent you from having shading errors, but you don't necessarily need it all the time. So I really didn't do anything with it. And so the clamp overlap is defaulted off. And if you come down to shading, harden normals is already on. So you don't really have to mess with anything, which is pretty cool. Oh, and by the way, there's a link. I don't know if you guys can see it. I put it in there. You can just go download on my Gumroad. Yeah, you should be able to just download that on the Gumroad right away. If somebody is having trouble downloading the add-on, it's a little zip file, very, very small. Just go in like normal. Once you've downloaded it, go to your edit and preferences, and it'll be called 3D View Magic, Bevel Magic. And so you just go ahead and turn that on. If for some reason it doesn't work, let me know, but it should. I'm testing it out on Blender 3.4.1, 3.3. So, and I'm pretty sure it'll work on 3.5. Ran into a couple issues with my bigger add-on here on 3.6, but I fixed that. It works now. And so got access to the carver tool and a bunch of other things on the big add-on, which is on the Gumroad as well. And I do have a free version of this. It's got a bunch of stuff on it, a lot of really good, useful tools. All right, so let's go ahead and bevel the cube. And you can see I got a little array here of things we can work on. Nothing big. Like I said, about 10, 15 minutes here. We're just kind of play around with this thing. And so it's important that you add bevels, add things that are going to make your mesh look good. I'm going to turn on cavity under the viewport shading and bring the ridge value up so the edges are nice and pronounced. Looks good. And like I say, you just kill the bevel. You can add a new bevel. You don't have to do any of that. You can just click between bevel 1, which it's already on there, and bevel 2. And it's going to be hard to see that. I'm going to have to rearrange. So if your screen gets out of whack, you can kind of center the object you're trying to get, zoom in, and then middle mouse. And now everything will work. Plus control middle mouse will help you zoom in as well, which is pretty helpful. And apparently I was adding the bevel to a different mesh because I clicked on something else. So there we go. That looks a little bit better. All right, so bevel 1 looks something like this. Bevel 2 looks something like this. It has 8 segments with a 0.02 amount. The auto smooth isn't on yet, just so we can kind of see the bevel. And let's see, if you actually wanted to, dare I just destroy this thing? I'm going to destroy it, potentially. Throw the wireframe on here. And what you can do is don't replace the original. And if you can play around with the thickness, there you go. You can have your bevel accentuated like that, and I think that's pretty neat too. That's just one of those things you can do. I'm not going to focus on that. So then you just click Auto Smooth and Shade Smooth and Auto Smooth. You go between Bevel 1 and Bevel 2. It's really simple. And now what we'll do is we'll go to the Suzanne, and I'll control middle mouse because that is zoomed in like really far. All right, so Bevel 1, if it's going to let me do it. Oh, there's no bevel on it yet. So I didn't add a bevel button here because it just didn't make sense, because you can just drop it in. I'm trying to make this thing, you know, very compact and nice. All right, so what we want to do is just click Bevel 1 and Shade Auto Smooth. And I think that looks pretty good. So here's the breakdown. Bevel 1 is for those finer tuned meshes that are really, they're going to produce shading errors if you have a big bevel. And go from sharp to arc right here, and you can see it automatically will clean up a bunch of shading. And then if you go to Bevel 2, you can see it's more pronounced and get a little bit more of a shading, kind of a mess up, if you will. And remember, if you're putting bevels in and they're too big, I guess I could add a third button, but I'm trying not to crowd this up. You can go to 0.001 and just get that really crazy sharp bevel. And then 0.002, you kind of step it up and see how it's going to look. And yeah, it's pretty cool. It looks good. So on some of these meshes, you may have to change something, you know, just the way it goes. Now, what we can do is I'll delete that out. I want to put in another cylinder, and we can bring the sides down. But what I do is go to, I'm going to face select here. And I'm going to go to wireframe and shift middle mouse this. Is it not going to let me pick them all? That's weird. All right, well, you can just shift alt and double right click in the middle of one of these edges, and it'll just grab everything. And now I want to do a checker deselect. We're just going to see how this bevel works on one of these. And let's extrude. Faces along normals, hold down shift, and then you can kind of bring this in. And this is one of those things. Let's see if this trick works on this mesh too. So what happens is you get this little funky overlap right here, and it's kind of a pain. So what I can do is I can select perimeter with my add-on, the one I created, and you can hit F to fill that, or you can probably just delete those faces. Okay, so they're doubled. Actually, that worked a little bit better before. I gotta select here and hit F to fill. There we go. That was a trick I kind of figured out the other day. So when you're doing that extrude and you have that extra edge, that's one of those things you can do to kind of get rid of that. And it looks nice. Now we can add a bevel to this. This is a little bit more intricate. Just going to create a little bit of a different thing here. And so if I grab Bevel 1, I think that looks pretty nice. Just auto shade smooth. But you see the corners? This is where you would need to come down to geometry and go from sharp to arc to kind of clean all that up. And I think that looks pretty good. Yeah, it's not bad at all. And I'm going to do is see if we could inset this a little bit. Not too much, just a touch. And then maybe extrude that down. That's pretty cool. And maybe one more time. And we're going to get some crazy edges in here. See how the bevels react. All right, so I like all of that. That looks pretty nice. We're going to try Bevel 2. You see it's a little fat. I may adjust that, but I mean, it's really just going to be dependent on what you want. And I do have cavity on. So when you turn cavity off, ultimately it may look good because we're just using the cavity option so that we can see how that, you know, we can see all the edges. And I do that for the YouTube compression so that you guys can see it for sure, see what's going on. And so Bevel 1 or Bevel 2. This is like an eyeglasses test. Bevel 1 or Bevel 2? Which one do you see better? Cavity on, cavity off. All right, so that's pretty cool. And then for the add-on, and the free version does this as well. If I go to the Z and I turn on the auto mirror, which is auto mirror symmetrize. Let's see if we can grab that top and bring it to the bottom. And I think it would be on negative. Nope. No, I mirrored the top. Try not to crash Blender doing this. Z, positive, and tool it. So now I've got this mirror to the bottom, which is fun. So that's why this add-on is just kind of designed for you to make things a little easier. I've got a remesh preset as well. And so you can add the preset. So if you've done something like this, and there's no guarantees in my mind that the remesh works really, really well. So you do have some funky corners. And if you turn the on cage on, let's see here. See if I can just apply that bevel. Yeah, if I click it up one more time, maybe. But this adds a boatload of geometry to it. And I think the quad remesher add-on would probably be a little bit better, but this is a substitute. So if you can't get in there necessarily buy all these different add-ons, I'm trying to do some things that are going to be kind of beneficial to everybody. And that's about it. There you go. So that's it. I'm just adding the bevel thing here. You guys pick that up absolutely free. I really appreciate you guys watching. Appreciate you support the channel. The bevel modifier thing is free. If it's not for some reason, just hit me up in the comments and I will fix that quickly. So thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you guys in the next tutorial lesson.